The following is a special video presentation of Higher Journeys Radio. ET contact, paranormal encounters like out-of-body experience, near-death experiences, and other incidents of high strangeness. Is there a common denominator with individuals who report their brushes with the non-human realm? The Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters, also known as FREE, is an organization whose primary mission is to understand the depths and dimensions of this still mysterious but important phenomenon. Once again, I had occasion to speak with one of FREE's co-founders, Rey Hernandez. This time, we had a face-to-face discussion while on location at the 5th Annual Experiencers Speak Conference in Portland, Maine, of which Rey also delivered a fascinating presentation based on the findings of FREE. Listen in now as he highlights how FREE was born, with all of its synchronistic twists and turns that came with it. Then hear his explanation about the many facets that go along with the ET contact phenomenon.
Every once in a while I have the pleasure of doing a show on location, and we get to go from radio to TV, and today's one of those days. I am here. I am so thrilled to be here in my neck of the woods, Portland, Maine, for the Experiencers Speak Conference. I believe it's the 5th Annual Experiencers Speak Conference, where we are hearing from such a range and scope of brilliant, loving individuals who happen to have extraterrestrial contact. I have one of these individuals here with me today. His name is Rey Hernandez. Y'all may know Rey because we had him on the show about a month or so ago to talk about his experiences, his range of experiences with non-human entities. And I prefer to use the term non-human because I think there's such a range of intelligence that exists out there. It's not just extraterrestrial. So we've talked about that a little bit. Today, what I really want to do is zone in on an organization that Rey is connected with called FREE, which is the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. And I'm so delighted that today we're going to have a chance to talk to Rey a little bit more about the organization. Now again, we spent a lot of time talking about your experiences and what led you to be a part of the FREE organization. But today, what I really want to focus on is the work that FREE is doing, and there's a lot of stuff that's going on. So I want to really get into one aspect that I found really intriguing and very important that FREE is offering, and that is your support infrastructure for other people who have had experiences that don't know where to go. So that's something that I definitely want to focus on. But I want to start with perhaps, Rey, you outlining FREE's mission and the impetus for what brought FREE together.
Okay. FREE was brought together, I think, from these non-human intelligence, synchronistically over a 3-day period. Mary Rodwell responded to an email that I had sent her 7 months prior, and she responded to that email the date that I had an out-of-body experience where I was shown how all of the different contact modalities, i.e. all of the different mechanisms where humans are having contact with non-human intelligence. For example, near-death experiences, UFO-related contact, mystical meditation, remote viewing, channeling, spirit world contact, etc., etc. The out-of-body experience dealt with that all of these modalities of contact are indeed interrelated, but yet humans are studying them separately. But in fact, it's all interrelated under some form of advanced physics, which humans are calling it consciousness. And then it gave me a specific mission of what I needed to do. So Mary, that same day that I had that experience, responded to an email that I sent 7 months ago, but she received that email that same day that I had that experience. The very next day, I got a telephone call from Dr. Rudy Schild. He called me up at my house. I didn't even know who this man was. Dr. Rudy Schild is an emeritus professor of astrophysics at Harvard University. He's one of the world's leading authorities on the physics of consciousness. He has several journals in his Journal of Cosmology dedicated to consciousness. He was a very close friend of the late Dr. John Mack, who was a medical psychiatrist at Harvard University, Harvard Medical School, who had worked with experiencers for many years, and a very dear friend of Mary Rodwell as well. So this man called me at 9:30 in the morning and told me that the experience that I had in that out-of-body experience, where I was given the information that all of these modalities of contact are interrelated, they're not separate. And he says that it was 100% correct. And that a theory that he and Dr. Edgar Mitchell have been working on for about 20 years now, called the quantum hologram theory of physics and consciousness, can indeed explain how they're all interrelated. And then that afternoon, I was on the phone with Dr. Mitchell, who invited me to his house.
Dr. Edgar Mitchell,
Dr. Edgar
everyone,
Mitchell.
Unfortunately, late Dr. Edgar Mitchell.
Correct.
Yes, yeah.
And then the next day, I was at Dr. Mitchell's home. And that's when Free began.
That's
Correct. It was at his house.
Yeah.
And it was comprised of Dr. Edgar Mitchell, Dr. Rudy Schild, Mary Rodwell, and myself.
wonderful.
And that's why I meant it was, divinely guided.
I would say so, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you and I have had this conversation before, and you briefly told me the story of how Free came together. And again, I think when things are meant to be, they happen synchronistically. We don't have to push that hard. So, And I think what a legacy Dr. Mitchell has left for Free and for all of us to sort of lay that foundation, give his blessing, and as a result, you've grown into a wonderful organization and are continuing to grow. And what I want to talk about, you touch on contact modalities, but if you go to the website, everyone, which is experiencer.org, of course, we'll have a link at the bottom of this post, but if you go to the website, which is beautifully laid out, it initially shows you all of the key areas that Free covers, including contact modalities. You have a section called the Science of Consciousness, the Experiencer Research Study, which is a big part of the Free model, and I really do want to get into that. And as I said, eventually I'd like to have you discuss the support aspect. But let's get into the whole idea of contact modalities, because I think that is absolutely key in what we're talking about here. People still tend to think of a contact experience as having a very sort of basic or classic framework, and as we have seen at this conference and listening to all the stories from experiencers themselves, the experience is as broad as each individual that has it. So let's get into talking about that, the contact modalities, and how consciousness is the central.
That's the key.
Is the key in this entire scenario. So let's talk about that.
First of all, as I said before, this information was given to me in the form of an out-of-body experience, where information was brought to me. Then it was validated by Dr. Rudy Schild, and then Dr. Edgar Mitchell. Dr. Edgar Mitchell, as many people here know, was the founder of the Institute for Noetic Sciences. He wrote a book in 1973, I think it's called The Psychic Phenomenon, where he had numerous chapters about all aspects of the psychic phenomenon, of the paranormal, ESP, precognition, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences. It was a whole book which was light years ahead of its time. The Institute for Noetic Sciences is an organization that studies this whole aspect of consciousness, of energy healing, of remote viewing, of ESP, telepathy, etc., etc. So Edgar was one of the pioneers in this. So here I was, after having these experiences, these two geniuses, independently telling me that yes, you were given the real truth about what really is going on. And so what we as an organization decided to focus on is an organization that's focused on consciousness. We're not a ufology organization. And the way that we're viewing this is by viewing the contact experiences and then comparing them of people that have had all these diverse contact modalities. Contact with non-human intelligence via all these different contact modalities. And one of the projects that we're undertaking is the Free Experiencer Research Study, which is the world's first ever comprehensive academic scientific study of people that have had UFO-related contact experiences. It's never been done before. And what we found out was that these individuals are having a vast array of quote-unquote paranormal type of experiences. For example, 80% of these individuals have had out-of-body experiences. 37% have had near-death experiences. 50% have had a miraculous medical healing. Their families, 95% of these individuals, either them or a member of their family, have had paranormal experiences. I could go on and on and on. So that's why I'm saying is that all of these experiences are all interconnected.
Yes, absolutely.
All interconnected.
Yeah.
People have psychic and precognition skills after you've had seen a huge UFO, or have had a near-death experience, or have had a mystical meditation. Okay, all of a sudden people are, very psychic. They're able to tell things in the future.
If I can ask, Ray, are you finding that, based on the research that you're getting, that the people that are talking about the other experiences, the NDEs, the OBEs, the incredible psychic proclivity that they now have, is it happening after their so-called contact experience, or in some cases did those experiences lead up to the contact experience?
It's a mixture of both.
It's a mixture of both.
It's not one or the other.
Okay.
There's many people for years that were having these type of psychic type of experiences, which then led to physical experiences. There's other people that since they were very young, they were having these physical experiences, but more than anything, it's more of the psychic type of experiences. And then later on, they transitioned and became even more powerful. People having, like, for example, these out-of-body experiences where they were going to this matrix reality, and they would be communicating with a conscious being. The being might not be there, but they're having this communication. And then seeing a UFO, months later, or a couple of weeks later, very, very up close, things of this sort. So it's a mixture of both.
Let's get into, what would we call it, the qualitative aspects of the profile. And again, I want to be careful when I use that word profile, because I think there's a negative connotation that tends to go with profiling these days. But in the context of what we're talking about here, has Free really gotten into looking at certain characteristics of an individual, age, male or female, certain ethnic groups, certain backgrounds, and finding any common threads at all?
We haven't gotten to that point yet of actually doing these cross-comparative analysis of the actual data fields. We do ask all our questions. We ask age, their race, gender, ethnicity, occupations, where they live, what country, what languages they speak, that sort of thing. We do ask all of that on top of 600 additional questions, but we're not there yet. We're finishing up phase 3. We've already finished phase 1 and 2, which is responses to 600 quantitative questions in our survey. And in English, the English language survey, we've gotten almost 2,600 responses. It's a huge number from over 85 countries in the English language. And now we're completing phase 3, which is responses to 70 open-ended questions. So people have to physically write out the details to 70 questions. We've gotten 1,000 responses to that. Okay, now these are the hardcore experiences, because as each phase progresses, the people that are responding to this are only the hardcore experiencers. And so this is a huge undertaking. We're in the 3rd year of this academic study. We have 6 retired PhD professors and 4 other lay people as part of our board of advisors. Plus we have a separate research committee where we brought in consultants. People have been working in this field for many, many years to give us input and guidance as well. And so it's never been done before, and that's why the findings that we're getting are going to be totally transforming the field of the paranormal and the field of ufology.
Absolutely. I think it is brilliant that you have sought to sort of intertwine, we have this big thing that we call the ET UFO phenomenon and the contact therein and everything else. And I agree with you. I think for a long time, many people had been partitioning these experiences. This is categorized as a near-death experience, and this is categorized as an out-of-body experience, and this is a reincarnational experience, and this is a synchronistic versus intuitive experience. And not that I have seen has there been any formal organization that has sought to bring all of these together.
Correct.
Because I think it really helps to build a case for the true nature of reality. So I think that's stellar, and I really applaud the work that you're doing. I think a lot of people will be interested eventually in getting an idea as to the likelihood of an individual, and we're all unique. had this conversation off line, off air, that we're all unique and the experiences invariably are very subjective. But I'm always interested in knowing if there is some tendency toward a certain, or what might be the impetus for one individual having the experience versus another individual not. Is there a generational component that we have going on here? That I've heard a lot, sort of informally. An individual comes to have a contact experience and later finds out that the paternal and maternal grandparents and so on have been having experiences. So I think these they have a measure of importance.
We asked that question in terms of family background, family relationships. We have roughly 70 questions that we asked them. Tonight in my presentation, I'll be discussing that. And we found out that yes, many of the children are having these experiences. Their spouses, their parents, their siblings. We don't have a lot of data on the grandparents or the grandchildren, obviously, because many grandparents are not around. You don't talk to your grandparents about this, or your grandkids, that sort of thing. But definitely a very, very strong relationship with very close family members. So it's not just you as an individual that's having this, it's the entire clan that's having this. And in terms of why certain people and why not others, we really don't know about that. What we're doing is basically the first ever attempt to address some of these questions. This is going to be a multi-generational study. After I'm long gone, these types of studies are going to continue. And we might get to the point where we might have a better idea to address that question. But at this point, we don't know. Like, for example, my case, I'm 60 years old. And today is 2016, September. Late August. My experiences started only 4 years ago. It was March of 2012. Before that, my wife and I had zero recollection of any of these experiences. And then it was like boom, 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 one after another, continuous. Who can explain that? We were like dormant for all these years? Yeah, the why. We don't know about that.
That's another interesting thing as we're talking, Ray. And as I've been speaking to individuals that are here attending the conference who are invariably experiencers, more and more I'm hearing are saying that, and these are adults. These are adults who are, in their, we have 22-year-olds here, but we also have 50, 60, 70-year-olds and maybe more. And many of them are saying that are in their latter years are saying that this happened only a few years ago. This epiphany happened not that long ago. Do you think that there might be a why to that?
I can only speculate on that, and that comes with a lot of anecdotal conversations that I'm having with many of the researchers, like Mary Rodwell, Rosemary Allen Guiley, Dr. Rudy Schild, Edgar before he passed away, many of the members of our board, people who have been in this field, most of them for over 30 years. They all see an acceleration of this awakening process, that more and more people are becoming conscious to the true nature of our reality, which is a multi-dimensional type of reality that consciousness is the focus to it. So many people are becoming hip to this fact, And a lot of people always mention, I feel that something is accelerating, that something is increasing, some type of energy, something major is going to happen. So, obviously nobody knows, but my response to that is that it's happening now. And what it is, it's an awakening of people. People are being awakened. For example, near-death experiences. When did that come out publicly? With Raymond Moody's book in 1975. The UFO contact experience, not seeing UFOs, but the actual contact with other entities. The Betty and Barney Hill case, and before that, the contactee movement. But that didn't get much play. And initially, the Benny and Barney Hill experience did not get much play either. It wasn't until, Bud Hopkins, David Jacobs, Dr. John Mack started talking about abductions. Then all of a sudden, and that was in the late 70s. Same time as the near-death experience. Is that a coincidence? No. All the Reiki and energy healing, that's been going on thousands of years with all of the indigenous cultures. But as a movement, as a social movement, New Age type of movement, it's been the 70s, Now, are these coincidences? I say no. Is these types of initiatives that they upstairs have brought down to us, this is the right time? You guys are going to blow each other up? You're building these nuclear weapons all over the world? You're at the brink of self-destruction. You need to wake the hell up. You need to change. You need to transform. And I think they're doing it through these types of instruments,
Right.
okay, these new consciousness awakening instruments to wake society up. We need to change ourselves. If not, we're going to blow each other to extinction. This planet Earth is going to become a wasteland, like a desert. We're heading in that direction. So I think what Free is one of the organizations that is beginning to lay the foundation, the basis for this awakening.
That's something really to think about, because again, I had not necessarily given a lot of thought to the fact that, I mean, we know about children who have talked of their paranormal, if you will, metaphysical experiences, and all too often, unfortunately, they're dismissed even by family members. And you hear about younger people that seem to have, again, this proclivity toward a spiritual lifestyle or spiritual experiences. But again, I'm going to reiterate, in the last, I don't know, several years, in particular in speaking to people here, I spoke with a gentleman last night who was probably in his 50s, maybe late 50s, and his awakening experience and contact experience happened only 5 years ago. So I think that's a very good thesis that you put forward.
Correct. This hypothesis, and it's not just mine. We have the leading thinkers in this field of contact with non-human intelligence, and they're all saying the same thing. You know, that this awakening is taking place. It's increasing almost exponentially. And I think the projects that we're doing in Free, all it's going to be doing is just accelerating that process.
Absolutely. And that's why I want everyone to support Free as much as possible and get involved. You're a wonderful organization. We're going to talk a little bit more about the website in a minute, but we got a few more things to cover.
Okay.
I want to talk about, Ray, this brilliant paper that you wrote that is available on the Free website called The Quantum Hologram Theory of ET Contact.
Correct.
Give us a little backstory. I know that backstory is quite interesting on, let's just call it a download you received, and this paper was the result. Tell us.
Okay. Again, I don't have a science background. I don't have a physics background.
What is your background?
I attended Cornell University for a master's degree in urban planning, a full academic scholarship. I was a 4.0 student at Cornell. And then I received a PhD National Science Foundation Research Fellowship at the University of California, Berkeley, which is the school that has the most Nobel Prize winners in the world, okay? And so, you know, very elite and prestigious university. And I went there for a PhD in urban city and regional planning. And I was on what you call an ABD, all but dissertation. My ex-wife got a brain aneurysm when I was writing my dissertation. So I did all the coursework. I passed all the exams. They approved my dissertation prospectus. You know, I was off writing my dissertation, which is normally, you know, a 1.5 to 2 year process. And then you get your PhD and you become a full tenure track professor at a major university, at least those that go to Berkeley. So I couldn't do that because I had to take 2 full-time jobs because we had 2 little babies. My wife was basically an invalid. At that time, she subsequently deceased. She subsequently died. So I could never finish my dissertation. But yet my mindset is as an academic. Okay. Then several years later, I went to law school and then I became an attorney. So
very multi-dimensional background. It really good.
So that's my background, you know, in terms of
not
math.
in physics though,
no,
right?
No.
So we're going to talk
math,
about how
I hated,
this came out.
I hated math. Nothing in science. I wouldn't go near that. You get me to write a 50-page paper, I could do it in one night, and I'll get an A or an A+ on it. Okay, the night before. So that was my background. Okay. So anyway, it's been a 1.5 years after I had my initial experience with my wife, where we had a miraculous healing that occurred in our living room.
Yeah.
Basically, this energy being, my wife calls them angels, I call them modern angels, appeared in the living room after my wife called them down because we were going to be euthanizing our dog.
Right, and that story, by the way, is on our
she was totally paralyzed. So then that was the beginning of our experiences, and then they just continued, these types of crazy experiences. Then fast forward a 1.5 years, okay, I'm in the middle of a traffic jam going into downtown Miami, 8:30 in the morning. All of a sudden, I'm not my body anymore, I'm not my car. I'm just brain, I'm just consciousness, nothing is around me, right? And then I'm inside this wheel, a huge gigantic wheel with spokes. It's turning around slowly. Inside each spoke is what I now call a contact modality, which are different modalities where humans are piercing the veil and having contact with non-human intelligence. For example, in one spoke, was near-death experiences. In another spoke was UFO-related contact. In another spoke was channeling. In another spoke was mystical meditation. In another spoke was ayahuasca journeys or shamanic journeys. Another spoke was, spirits and dead people communicating with that. Not necessarily channeling. Okay, and on, all of these different mechanisms of people are having contact with non-human intelligence. Right? We're inside each of these different spokes. Then this was all information. It wasn't a voice. It was information, and it's difficult to explain. And then what I was told, or the information that I got, was that humans are studying all of these different experiences separately and individually. But in fact, it's all one. Okay? That we need to study them as one. And the glue that's holding it all together is some form of advanced physics that humans are calling it consciousness. Okay? Then they told me I have a mission. And that's to inform humanity of the relationship between them, the spirit world, and consciousness. I'm going to be needing help. And there's 2 criteria for that help. It cannot be about money. And I have to get individuals that have minimal ego to help me out. And then poof, I'm back in my body. Okay? That same night, Mary Rodwell is responding to an email, okay, that she received 7 months earlier, that I stated a little while ago. The next day at 9:30, Rudy gives me a call. Okay? Then the next day, Edgar Mitchell invited me to his house on the 3rd day. At the home of Edgar Mitchell, Free got formed. Without a mission, we had no idea what the hell we'd be doing. Without a name, it's just let the 4 of us get together to implement what the ETs gave you. Okay?
Well, we talked about this at the outset, and again, it deserves reiterating because this is beyond a synchronicity. I think we'd have to invent another word when things come together that magically, because that's what it is.
I don't like to use that word synchronicity because it doesn't sufficiently explain.
Exactly. We'd have to come up with another word. I don't know that there is one, just the way it's supposed to be. But again, getting back to how this paper was written, the quantum hologram paper. But I want to make a point because it occurred to me as you were telling the story, Ray, about you being in this wheel with a multitude of spokes, and each spoke represented, if you will, a different modality or a different aspect of consciousness.
Yes, that's what it is.
This, in and of itself, to me, I see a hologram.
Yes, that's what it is.
That was the hologram. So could it be that experience was also the impetus for your writing this paper?
Bingo. Bingo.
Did I get that?
Rudy calls me up, right? 9:30 in the morning. I didn't even know who this man was, right? And he says that my experience is 100% correct. And that the theory that he and Dr. Mitchell have been working on for 20 years, the quantum hologram theory of consciousness and physics, explains how they're all interconnected. Okay? Wow. And then he starts explaining the physics behind that. And half of it I was understanding, the other half was like, shoo. And then when I was in Edgar's house, Edgar said the same thing, but in a different way. Okay? In a not so much technical, verbiage. Okay? And also Edgar was getting quite old and he wasn't as vigorous as he was when he was much younger, And so then after that experience, I think it was like 2 months later, I wrote this paper called The Quantum Hologram Theory of ET Contact, which is basically, I took a theoretical abstract paper and I brought my experience into the quantum hologram and I merged them both.
Yeah.
And said I sent it off to Edgar, sent it off to Rudy, I sent it off to Ralph Steiner, who is another genius PhD physicist. They both saw it, they made some editing changes in terms of the quantum physics aspect of it, made some corrections, little, fine-tuning it here and there. And they said, 98% of it is perfect.
Great.
Go with it.
Wow.
And it's a theory of consciousness and the contact modalities, which is a merging of Edgar's and Rudy's theoretical piece and my personal experience. Like that.
And by the way, folks, this paper is available in its entirety on the website. It can be downloaded. Can it be shared?
It can be downloaded, can be shared under the section of the contact modalities.
Wonderful. Beautiful. We got more to talk about, folks, but we're going to take a quick little break. I'm going to move out of the sun a little bit because it's getting a little hot out here. It's beautiful, but it's warm. We will be right back.
What would you do if the beloved pet you had to put down only months ago suddenly showed up at your doorstep? Or you had a dream that your animal companion told you they would be returning to you? Hi, I'm Alexis Brooks, and after having my own amazing animal return experience, I've put together a compelling presentation called The Evidence for Animal Reincarnation, Clues, Characteristics, Confirmation, that include miraculous stories just like mine that happen to real people just like you. You'll hear powerful accounts of animals returning to their owners after they've died. You'll find out if you can actually encourage your lost pet to return to you and ways to learn whether they already have. Take a deep dive into the historical beliefs around reincarnation. Learn about synchronicity, intuition, and even dreams and how they all factor into this miraculous phenomenon. To learn more about this unique presentation and to purchase your copy, visit higherjourneys.com/animal reincarnation. That's higherjourneys.com/animal reincarnation. And maybe you too will witness the return of your animal friend that you've been so longing to see. You're listening to Higher Journeys Radio with Alexis Brooks. And now, back to our program.
We're back talking to Rey Hernandez from Free. Again, experiencer.org, which is the free website, is chock full of content, so I want everyone to go there. Here's something that particularly caught my attention from the website. We were just talking about John Climo, who wrote the landmark book, which I've had for years, called Channeling. But he also wrote a paper that's available as well on Free called Otherworldly and Interdimensional Realities, and that caught my attention. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I think, again, we're still trying to get away from the stigma of this phenomenon being strictly ET, that being extraterrestrial. And I think a lot of us...
We try not to use that term.
Yeah, and I think that's a wise thing to do. I always put in quotes the ET UFO phenomenon, but we all know it's so much bigger than that. So obviously when I saw something like otherworldly and interdimensional realities, it caught my attention. I want to get into that because, again, could it be that the interdimensional realities and the interdimensional beings that occupy these realities are really more of what people are experiencing and less about extraterrestrial? Let's talk about that.
Dr. John Climo is one of the founding board members of our board of directors. He is the co-chair of our experiential research study. John is a retired professor of psychology, and he's one of the world's best-known academic parapsychologists. People have studied the paranormal. And that article that you mentioned also is in that menu section titled The Contact Modalities. And again, it's John's write-up, exactly what you just said, that maybe these beings are part of this matrix reality of a multiverse. And Dr. Mack was heading in that direction. He spoke about it in the last years of his life. Mary Rodwell always talks about it. Rudy always talks about it. Edgar Mitchell, same thing. Okay, that's part of this quantum hologram theory of physics and consciousness, allows for the possibility of information, and non-human intelligence is information,
right?
Okay, to be filtered into our reality. Okay, and we still don't know whether these are actual, terrestrial beings mixed with these interdimensional beings, or whether we live in a type of matrix reality that's we're part of this matrix that's recreating all of these realities, and the filtering of all of these beings interdimensionally. These are all hypotheses that John wrote, and all of the other articles in this section, because Edgar told me a very long time ago, okay, and repeated it many times. He says, Ray, we know the equivalent of one grain of sand in an entire beach. And then I responded, and that's just one beach, implying the multiverse.
Right.
Okay. And so all of the members of our board of directors have that same philosophy. Even Leo Sprinkle, who's 85 years old, began researching, the ET alien abduction field in the late 60s. Leo even told me, we don't know squat. We don't know squat. We think we know, but we don't know squat.
Right.
And that's Leo that's been in this field over 50 years.
Yeah.
And Mary Rodwell, the same thing. Rudy Schild, all of these folks, these geniuses.
I think that's a very healthy perspective to take.
And so what we're doing is raising possible hypotheses.
Right.
Okay, based upon the quantum hologram, based upon the multiverse, based upon the type of experiences people are having. So at this point, we're just raising non-traditional hypotheses, because before it was like, oh, they came from Mars, they came from Venus, you know, they came from Saturn or Jupiter, you know, Ganymedes, you know, one of the moons of Jupiter, that type of thing, you know. But again, these are, you know, traditional conceptions of where these beings might be coming from. Now, the hypothesis of our board members is that, well, hold on a second, these could be even interdimensional types of entities.
Well, you know, I find that interesting that should come up at Free, and somebody that is affiliated with Free, who you and I both know very well, and that's Rosemary Ellen Guiley. And I have to tell you, when I first learned of Free and started to get acquainted with the board members, learned that Rosemary is part of the board, I thought, that's interesting, because although she has done a stellar job of research on all things paranormal, inclusive of which is this phenomenon, but it's not necessarily her centerpiece. Her centerpiece, and it has been for many years, has been the shadow being phenomenon, also referred to as, she sees it as the jinn. She describes these, or they are described as very incredibly mysterious phenomena, which many of my audience know I've covered this aspect of it for quite some time, seem to be interdimensional in nature. So how much has that come up? And as a matter of fact, I'd like to ask that question in terms of your respondents, the information that you're getting from people that are taking the survey that have identified contact as maybe being shadow-like.
Okay, first of all, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, she herself is an experiencer. She's had experiences with energy beings and different types of looking beings. She knows that these experiences are not just the jinn, even though she became very well known because of the shadow people and her books on the jinn. But she perfectly understands that what's going on is much, much more complex, you know, than that. And she's in sync with our approach. Everything that I just said, she's 100% in sync. Okay. In terms of our research, we've asked many different questions of what these beings look like, what they did, what they didn't do, how they treat you, they download information, that sort of thing. Now, we didn't specifically ask shadow beings. We asked whether they were energy beings, spirit beings, like ghosts/spirits, human-looking beings, the short rays, the tall rays, manatid type of beings, reptilians, and then large animal types, small animal types, and then other. Okay? On the other, we had over 1,000 others. Okay?
Yeah.
That just shows you the diversity.
Well, is it other? Please, if so, please explain.
We did. Okay, but since we've had 2,600 responses, we would have to
go through all
that and write out the others.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm getting at is that if you also, most of the people have not seen one type of being.
Right.
They've seen a whole diversity of different types of beings. You know, also how many times they've seen them? The vast majority have seen them more than 20 times. In tonight's presentation, I have the whole write-up. Okay, if you're going to see a being, you're going to see it more than once. Okay. The number one category of the selections, we had 20 or more. We had between like 15 and 10, 10 to 15, 5 to 10, from 3 to 5, and then 1 and under, something like that. The number one largest pie was more than 20.
More than 20. We know, as you say that, Ray, it reminds me of a gentleman by the name of Grant Cameron. Many in our audience and fans of ET UFO phenomena know that name. And one thing that stands out that he once said, stands out for me, is that his contention is if he runs across an individual who has had an experience or recalls one experience, his hypothesis is you're a lifer. You've been having experiences all of your life, i.e. 20 or more sightings. We're talking obviously about people that have had conscious recollection of 20 or more contact experiences, but it could very well be, or maybe I should put this in a question, could it be that those that only recall one, from your perspective,
might have had many? Correct. Yes, no, I mean, we know that these entities can totally manipulate your mind, your thoughts, your memories. My wife, for example, was taken right in front of me with our dog. Our dog was returned with my wife 45 minutes later, totally cured, medically cured. We were going to put her to sleep that day, okay? My wife, unfortunately, was returned the same, okay? Just kidding. they did something with her too, you know, I don't know what. But the point I'm getting at is that many people are missing time. They have no idea what happened during the time.
Let's talk about that, missing time. I want to continue to focus on that research.
We asked that question.
What kind of returns did you get on that?
Hundreds and hundreds of people.
So would you say that's a common
yes, very common
experience?
Very, very common experience, missing time. All of these paranormal topics that we're talking about, we've had hundreds and hundreds of people that check that box. Okay, so
and how about you?
Huh?
How about you with missing time?
I don't recall the missing time.
You don't?
I was put to sleep for 45 minutes. I just had to tease. But in terms of missing time, I don't have any conscious recollection. Not to say that, you know, there are other experiences that we just don't remember. We know these things exist, you know, so very likely.
Again, I think it's worth reiterating that when we're tempted to take this entire phenomenon, put it in a nice neat little box, label it, if you've had this, then you've had this experience and this experience. No, I think if there's one thing that Free has shown to the research, it's as varied as can be, and yet you do see commonalities, you do see common threads.
Yeah. Let me address that.
Please.
That issue.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
All this information, the vast majority of the members of our organization knew what might be the results of these findings, because they had been speaking, again, Mary, 3,000 people. You know, she's worked with 3,000 experiences. So there are common threads that she gets. Now, and Rosemary too, etc. But what they didn't have is the statistics that would tell you, okay, this many percent is this many percent is that. They knew that out-of-body experiences were associated with the contact phenomenon.
Right.
They knew that near-death experiences were associated with the contact phenomenon. They knew that medical healings were associated with the contact phenomenon, but they had no idea the percentages, how large it was. Well, we asked that question. Okay. 80% have had an out-of-body experience. Huge numbers. Out of 2,600 people that took our phase 2 study, our phase 1 study. Okay. Near-death experiences, 37%. Huge number stated that they had a near-death experience. Medical healing, 50%.
50%. 50. Make sure you can hear us here.
Okay.
50%.
I've had a medical healing by these non-human intelligence. Okay. These are astronomically large numbers. We also have questions about reincarnation, about past lives, past life memories. You know, did any of these ETs give you information about the spirit world, etc., etc. Things that the experiences people like Mary, Rosemary and Diley, etc., George Present, Kathleen Martin, you know, all these people that work with the experiences, they tell you these stories, you know, and they mention these stories. We had no data to back it up. Now we've got that data. And what we know is that this is not just UFO, you know? Typical
it seems like that's really not that much of it at all.
At all, exactly.
It's almost like a byproduct or an epiphenomenon of something
correct,
else.
Correct. That's why in my position, these ufologists, pardon me, are totally clueless. Okay? Free is not a ufology organization. We're not into lights in the sky, analyzing this photo, analyzing this historical document, this conspiracy theory with the government and this and that. No, we're not into that stuff. Okay? We're in what the actual gold mine is. And the gold mine is the experience. Okay? Not just UFO contact experience. Okay? But all of these modalities of contact. And that's the field that we need to find in order to get a better understanding of what really is going on, which in turn will give us information about the true nature of our multiverse reality.
Right. That's a lot. I'm tempted to ask you about, again, so many stories, not only yours, but others that you've heard. I'm going to go ahead and ask it, because I think if we have enough tape, we can keep rolling. I definitely want to talk about the support programs, because I think that is of utmost importance. But of all the data that, and I know that you personally, there's no way you could have gone through each and every one and read every little word. However, as you are so central to this organization, and obviously have heard stories and read stories, out of all of them, are there any, without obviously mentioning any names, 1, 2 accounts that just stood you on your ear that you had never heard of before, or anything that just really stands out for you?
Well, let me address that question first, and then I'll change that question around in terms of what is the most important finding we discovered.
Okay,
So,
fair enough.
The most mind-blowing experience that I've encountered is actually one of my best friends. Okay? And I'll mention his name because, he doesn't mind it.
Okay.
Okay? Alberto Hernandez. A 71-year-old man born in Cuba, raised in the United States. His wife is a PhD psychologist. Their daughter's a PhD psychologist. He's a retired federal DEA agent. Yes, okay? He and his family, but more himself, has had the most extensive, broad experiences of anyone that I've ever read.
Can you give us just a
By far.
snapshot
Oh,
of...
goodness.
Well, we have a few minutes left.
He's had
Snapshot.
near-death experiences. He's had out-of-body experiences. He's had past life. He's had teaching lessons by quote-unquote masters, which are human-looking beings that don't look like the typical Palladians. He's seen those, but he's seen many that are, Asian-looking. Okay, Asian-looking, black, African-American looking. Okay, all shades and colors out there, folks. Okay, not just these.
That's important to talk about.
Not just these blonde Palladians.
Yeah, that's come up a lot.
Okay.
And it has been asked to me, maybe to you as well.
Yep.
Why aren't we hearing more discussion, not to digress too much, but why aren't we hearing more discussion or hearing more from people of color that are having these experiences? So maybe that could be another discussion.
And,
or not.
He was raised in Cuba. Cuba is a multi-cultural and racial type of society.
Right.
So, maybe people get exposed to different things according to what they're comfortable with. He's had encounters with Christ. Okay, the actual Christ appeared to him, talked to him, communicated with him. He's gone to other planets. Okay, with different types of beings. He's had things materialize in his room, in his house, witnessed by other members of his family, witnessed by other family members. He's had healing powers. Okay, someone who had a messed up knee, all of a sudden he got this urge to go touch this lady and to try to heal her. Just out of the blue, it came to him. Boom, boom, boom. The lady's walking out without a crutch. I mean, on and on and on the stories of this man. He's just a consortium of all these stories that we're hearing, all wrapped up into one person. And he just happens to be one of my best friends.
Just
now.
happens to be.
And we eat lunch at least once a month.
Not an accident that he just happens.
No, not an accident.
And I'm not being facetious here. I don't think any of these things are coincidental. This is a big thing, and there are a lot of individuals having a lot of experiences, and I am just so delighted that Free has made a safe environment for people to feel comfortable to talk about them. Who would have thought an individual like this? Again, we tend to be habituated toward this idea that DEA agent? Nah, can't be. It's everybody, folks. It's everybody. It's you, right? Maybe? So let's close out with this, and this does deserve a little bit more time than we can give it, but I do want you to touch on the support programs that Free offers. This is absolutely important personally to me because I have so many individuals, now getting into this work a little bit more integrally than I thought. I'm hearing from people that are desperate, that are having experiences that may not know about Free, and certainly that they don't know about the support programs that Free offers. So please talk about that.
Okay. The support program. Any questions you might have about the support program, send us an email. support@experiencer.org. That's support@experiencer.org. We have a full range of support programs for experiencers. Okay? When I had my experience, again, I was totally oblivious to these things. Okay? Who do you turn to? I went to the internet and I found out that 99.9% of the internet is garbage. Is junk, okay? It confused me even more. They're Nephilims, they're Anunnakis, they're devils, they're gods, they're angels, they're this, and all of these so-called experts were all contradicting each other. One person would say this other person would say that, then this other person would attack this person, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Nobody could give me any straight answers. I had no one to talk to, okay? So what we established in Free is a program called the Peer-to-Peer Support Program. And that allows, we have 40 volunteers, all experiencers. So we have someone that takes your email.
Hi everyone, we're back. Thank goodness this isn't live, this is recorded. So we had to take a little break because we lost a little bit of battery life. So we had to get a little bit more juice, come on, we're back now, and we're going to conclude with you talking about, if you could just recapture the support aspect of free for us, that would be great.
Sure. Many individuals are having these experiences, and it might have been positive experiences, not even negative experiences, but even like myself, positive experiences.
Right.
But your mind is blown away. Your total reality, conception of reality, is totally destroyed. And then you want to be able to talk with people about it. Who do you turn to? You talk to friends, and they dismiss you, or they're not interested, or they might think you turned a little crazy.
So how would Free help that?
Okay, Free has a program. It's called various programs. The first program is a peer-to-peer support program, where you send us an email at support@experiencer.org.
And of course, we'll have a link to that directly from the post.
And then we would respond to your email, and then the coordinator would have a short one-on-one conversation with you, and then we would match you up with someone that who is an experiencer that has worked with other experiencers in the past to just listen to you, to talk to you. Okay.
That's the most
and
important.
If you're not satisfied with that person, we'll hook you up with another person. One person, we've gone to 3 different people. Finally, they were satisfied with the third person, and then they remain friends.
And this is all free of charge.
Free
now you know
charge.
what free really means. I couldn't resist that one. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's an important thing, Ray, because there's so many people. I mean, there's so many things inhibiting people from coming forward. I think first and foremost, we're still dealing with the ridicule factor, and that we must get over that. But then the other thing is, they're thinking, well, if there is someone that I could speak with, it would be expensive, cost prohibitive. This is free. That is so important. I'm going to urge everybody that may think that they've had an experience or 2 or 20 to please contact Free. This is not about novelty. I probably sound like a broken record. This is about very important information, in some cases life-saving. I know that there are individuals who have gone through tumultuous times, and they're keeping everything in the closet, feeling that there's no one they can talk to. There is somebody that you can talk to. Wonderful people, capable people, loving people. We're talking about Free. Rey Hernandez, always a pleasure to talk to you, and I know that this is going to be one of many conversations to come. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexis. I just want to say it's been an honor being interviewed by you. You've asked excellent questions, and everyone, you're not alone. This reality that we're having is very real, and do not keep it to yourself. Contact our organization. You need support, we'll hook you up. All of our data from our research study, our experiential research study, is available to the public under experiencer.org. Just click on the research submenu.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
It seems that the children at the pool, the cheering people in the background, and even the buzzing creatures in the trees all wanted to get in on the action and have their voices heard, and that they did. I hope this wasn't too much of a deterrent while listening to Ray's great discussion about Free, because he has a lot to share. As we continue to labor to understand what is going on for so many people who have had contact encounters, whether it's explored academically, scientifically, experientially, or just through a series of powerful synchronicities, all are worthy tools for investigation. I urge you to visit Free's content-rich website at experiencer.org. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out my previous interview with Ray, conducted back in June of this year. As always, I thank you for dialing up higher journeys. Until next time, I'm your host, Alexis Brooks.